and welcome to our live for the week. My name is Chetha. For those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Una's daughter and the head of the EntreMD merch division. So you can get your merch at entremd.com/merch, or you can scan the QR code that's on the side of your screen. And today I'm interviewing a very special doctor. This is Dr. Mary. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself and then we'll get started.
All right. Well, thank you, Cheta, for having me today. So I'm Dr. Mary, as Dr. Cheta said, and I am a physician full-time, doing hematology and medical oncology. I'm also a certified life coach for physicians, and I help physicians who are stressed, overwhelmed, working extra hours at nights and on the weekends to feel better, to reclaim their time so that they get to enjoy life and enjoy practicing medicine again. So here I am.
Here she is. Okay. So, we just heard a little bit about your business, but could you share your business story with us? Like, what it is, why did you start it, and then what does it stand for?
Yes. So I'll just say that as I started off with, I didn't think that I would have a business. And, I thought that I would just be, full time doing my physician clinical work until I retire. I don't know, sometimes 60 something years old. And then, I just found myself, being the attending physician, just working longer and longer hours, not necessarily, in terms of on paper, not longer hours, but in actuality, I was just working all these extra hours, at night, after the kids went to bed, over the weekends, just to catch up with charting, phone calls and all these other administrative work. And I just got to the point that I was just barely surviving and not really, enjoying what I was doing. Because, I really wanted to connect with the patients at a deeper level and not just treating their diseases. But I wasn't, really doing that. And then fast forward to the pandemic hit was when, I was able to just see a third of my patients and I got to go home on time, and I thought that was amazing. That was like a new thing in my life. And I was wondering, what if I could do that, you know, all the time,
Long term.
go home on time, even when I'm seeing the same number of, 20 some patients that I see in a day. So then, I got into coaching with a big, women physicians group. And basically there I learned how to, manage my time, manage my mind, and got to be more efficient. And I started going home by 5:30, and
Wow.
with all my work done. So that was amazing because I was already
Yes.
going back to
Mhm.
seeing the 20 some patients that I was seeing. So then I thought, well, so many physicians were miserable. What if I could just help them do the same? So
Mhm.
that's how the idea of having a coaching business started. So I just thought one day that, I asked for permission from my institution to have my own, coaching business, got the
Mhm.
okay, and then I just, registered for it.
Yeah.
Didn't know much about it, in terms of business, because I was like, I never took any
The
business
idea to be
class.
a business person. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm a doctor, I'm not a business person, and I don't own my own practice, right?
Mhm.
So then it was just kind of like always as a side thing, almost to the point of like a hobby, even though I enjoyed coaching physicians. So then 3 years ago was when I decided to, what, I wanted to really make an impact. I wanted to help more physicians. And then there's this person called Dr. Una, who is just everywhere. And I was like,
Everywhere.
Dr. Una is amazing. Dr. Una is so nice. Dr. Una knows everything and about business. And Dr. Una helps physicians, with
Mhm.
not just for coaching, but of course, with private
Yeah.
practice and whatever doctors want to do to, to live on our own terms, to really, yeah, I guess this year's dream, the theme is like dream life, dream business. I'm like,
Mhm.
great. So I took the leap, joined Dr. Uda. And I think from that point forth, it's just really amazing. And I think for my business, it is I had the name of my business is Shining with Gratitude MD, because I'm so grateful for what has happened to me, that I was able to get out of this survival mode into, this really thriving, in, in life, and in practicing medicine, and also, building this coaching practice. Of course, at that time, I didn't know that I was building a thriving coaching business, but I was just grateful for what has happened to me and the opportunity to help other people. So then I started to offer one-on-one, physician coaching for other physicians who basically are going through what I went through,
Mhm.
in the past. And then of course Dr. Una, it's kind of like has been part of my journey since then.
That's really good. And then so I know you mentioned charting. So, and that's kind of what your business kind of revolves around. So, my question is, what is the opportunity cost for having undone charting? Like your charting isn't finished. What's the opportunity cost for
Oh boy,
that?
it costs so many different things. So of course, first is the time.
Mhm.
The time is like, if you're doing, for example, we'll just make it easy, like extra 2 hours of work.
Mhm.
you know a lot of a lot of physicians are, like, say, salaried, so we don't get overtime pay. And not to mention that the time is gone, it's gone. We can't go, it's not like Back to the Future, we can go
Yeah.
back and buy back the time. So there's that time loss, and also the extra hours that you're working for free, basically. Like, say, if your hourly rate is $100 for easy math, then every day that you do the extra 2 hours, that's $200, and 5 days, that's already $1,000 that you're working for free.
Yeah.
And actually, not just working for free, but it's like you could have used those hours to do something else to earn money. So
Mhm.
you're, like, kind of like paying to do the extra hours of work. And not to mention that mental load that you're carrying, a lot. And when I think, I was dreading it, and I hated it, because I was like, I should be home already. And that really burdened me. And also, at that time, at the end of the day, you're already tired, shutting down your brain. You can't focus as well. So guess what? You The same thing that you could have done earlier in the day, it takes you 3 times longer to do the
Mhm.
same thing.
Yeah.
So it's really costing you a lot of things.
That's wow. That's Jeez. So I can't even I don't even know how to put that into word, but that's a lot. And so I'm glad you're doing what you're doing because you're definitely helping a lot of people. And then so my next question is what has becoming an entrepreneur made possible for you?
What has become an entrepreneur, like,
Made possible for you. Yeah.
I think the fact that I have my own business, that is already amazing. I'm like, I never thought that is possible. And I think, with Dr. Una's help, just being in part of this EntreMD Business School community, it's really an amazing thing, because I think that it just kind of have that support, that I'm not alone. I
Mhm.
have all these other classmates who are in different stages of the business, and also different kinds of business, and I get to learn from them, and also kind of like share my own experience, and what goes well, what doesn't go as well. And just having that support is so important. And I think being an entrepreneur, it's really, yes, sometimes you can feel so alone, but then in this community, it's like, okay, you know what, you can have all the support that you need, because if you ask a question, like, everyone will jump in right
Mhm.
away.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and also, the other thing is, also, Dr. Una always mentioned, it's like, I think to be an entrepreneur, it's, you have to be comfortable to do the uncomfortable things.
Mhm.
And I think that, this is a community that is, really help me to to take those steps, to say, I understand that discomfort is always going to be there if you want to grow,
Mhm.
either in business or in life in general. So it's really like being brave enough to take that step, or we like to say eat that frog,
Yes.
right? To do that, it's, that's definitely an entrepreneurial move that I guess I never really appreciated when I wasn't one. And so I think those are kind of like the important things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. And so you mentioned the business school, and already mentioned the community. So I have a few questions around that. So, how did you hear about the business school? Like let's get the business school story. How'd you hear about it? What was the, I guess, catalyst that made you join? That final push. How long have you been inside of it? And like what's your
Sure.
favorite thing about it?
Yeah. I think I first heard about Dr. Una was actually from a physician, like on virtual summit, because that was during the pandemic, and it
Mhm.
was like a summit of doctors doing things outside of clinical medicine. And I didn't even think that, so many doctors are doing other things. And so Dr. Una was one of the speakers, and at that time I didn't really think much. I was like, oh, Dr. Una is pretty interesting. And then when I joined the women physician coaching program, and then I think Dr. Una was there again. It's like, oh, it's Dr. Una again. So I guess I know some people are, listening to podcasts and all. I didn't listen to any podcasts at that time. I think I started listening to Dr. Una's podcast from time to time, really later on after I joined the business school. So it was like probably, I would say, maybe 2 years later after I first heard of Dr. Una, that I decided to join, because, well, I didn't really own my business. I didn't
Mhm.
have a business until probably like half a year or so before I joined um, Dr. Una. So then, what was the second part of the question?
How long have you been inside of it,
Oh, yes.
or what pushed you to join the school?
Yes. So what pushed me to join is like, I think that was like, oh, I really, I want some help, because I had no clue about business. So I'm seeing all these examples of, other doctors of what possible, and Dr. Una herself is, of course, an amazing example. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me just learn from people who know what they're doing. And Dr. Una is like the obvious choice. So I just did it. And I think I joined during one of those, the week long, I forgot, like, one of those online week long, workshops that she did. Um,
Mhm.
so that was 3 years ago that I
Wow,
joined.
that's
And
good.
then afterwards, just every year, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to not graduate. I know, because I feel like this is, you always learn something new.
Mhm,
And just like, when you read a book, when you read it a second time, it's like you take something new every
mhm,
time. And
yeah,
even when you hear the same message two, three, four times, every time you take something different.
mhm. That's really good. And then so since you've joined the business school, what has, been, like, your most tangible win that you've seen in your business now?
Yeah. So I think one of the things is really, doing more uncomfortable things. Like, one of the things that Dr. Una started me was, I'm doing, every Monday I do a couple minutes of Facebook Live. It's my motivational Monday with Dr. Mary in the morning. I would have never dreamt of doing that. I mean, it's like, why? Why would I want to be in front of a camera?
Mhm,
I'm kind of this introverted person.
yeah,
And so, but then I thought, well, this is not about me. This is about me serving other people, helping
mhm,
other people, just,
yeah,
speaking from my heart of what I learned and I want to share. So that kind of course, the more reps you do it, the more comfortable you are. And
mhm,
and and so that is, I've been consistent in doing that for the past 3 years. And then also, really, other uncomfortable things is really like, being on other people's podcasts, and never thought that I would do that either. And just being in front of more people, again, it's to really want to help other people. And of course, have uh, having the opportunities to do, talks, in either the private Facebook groups or in, medical state society, things like that. And while, I'm still working full time, and helping more, physicians in a one-on-one basis, to, really steadily growing my practice in that. So I think, all these things wouldn't have happened so, organically, kind of without, being in the business school.
Yeah, that's good. And then so you did the tangibles. What's the intangible wins that you've had since joining?
Yeah, so I think the intangible one is really how I feel in general. I think that it's having, I'm definitely doing more now than, in the past, because in the past I was just doing my clinical work, and now
Mhm.
I'm doing my clinical work, working on my business, and in my business, coaching other physicians. And I don't feel overwhelmed. And Dr. Una always says, we don't do overwhelm, and
Yeah.
it is a choice. It is because, it's how we feel. It's the overwhelmed feeling, but it's like, what are we thinking that is causing us to feel overwhelmed? So it's like, you can take a step back and say that, all right, this is a situation, and it is okay. You don't have to do everything all at once. You can prioritize things. And I think that, just having that more calm state of mind is definitely a win for every day, even when I wake up, to go to work, in my clinical job, and also have that, um, just that gratitude and that hope to, be able to serve other physicians, in the capacity that I can. So I think these are all wins, because in the past I would be, so easily, feel frustrated, overwhelmed, stressed. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I still feel, I'm still a human being,
Mhm.
still feel those, emotions sometimes, but then it's like those things are occupying less of my time, because of how, I think, and especially, with, Dr. Una helping me, just realize that, hey, you know what, we can just do one thing at a time.
That's really good. That's amazing. And so I know earlier you mentioned a bit about the community, right? So what is your I want to say like what is your favorite thing about the community, or what is if you don't mind sharing one way that the community helped you with your business? Because I know
Yeah.
that the EBS community is very involved. Like they everybody loves each other. So I know about that.
Yeah, I would say that, I think I love the most is really the in-person meetings. So, I know the really the big ones are, the twice a year, either the mastermind or the vision retreat. So I enjoy really the in-person meeting. Too bad I missed the June, EntreMD Live. And I just think that, with that, seeing the person,
Mhm.
in real life is totally a different experience. And I really enjoy, during those meetings, we get to have small groups. We sit at, the table with just maybe like 6 7 people, and we get to talk like really, a more intimate setting in the big group. And then a lot of times it's like we get to have our, specialty mastermind, inside those meetings. It's like, like all the, DPC people sit together, and all the, coaches, kind of like divided up by specialty, so we can, really share with one another, what our wins are, challenges are, and what we can kind of like, what what we can do to make things better for someone else, like that, you might not have thought about. So I think that's kind of like my favorite part. And of course, I always, there's so many things that I like. Let's put it that way. Like the Wednesday nights, I go, I attend live unless I'm like traveling or something like that.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'm on call, that so that I get pulled away. But so those are like, I also learn from our classmates, like, okay, even the questions they have is like, sometimes it's like, you know if they're doing the private practice, but I'm a coach, it's still helping me, the questions that they raise. And then also the other thing, it's like we have the CEO Power Hour, that Dr. Tamara is, kind of leading us,
Mhm.
usually. And that's the one that I always attend, again, unless I'm traveling
Yeah.
or on vacation. And because that's kind of, really, that's like the hour that I work the hardest on my business, of the day. But it's yes, we're just doing our own thing during that 50 minutes or so. But it's like, when you feel like, oh, so everyone else is doing something, then it's like, all right, let me work hard too to
Yeah.
do something. So
Yeah.
like those are some of my favorite things in the school.
Yes. That's amazing. I love the in-person meetings as well, just
Yeah.
because I get to watch everybody interact and everybody's talking. Or there'll be times where, the event itself is over and then like I go downstairs to like get a drink or something and everybody's crowded around one table having dinner. And I'm like, wow, these people really love themselves, which is it's good to have, that type of community, especially as physicians where, sometimes you feel lonely in that space. And then you
Yes.
have the EntreMD community where everybody loves each other and there's no loneliness for you to be in. So that's
Yeah.
really good. And then so we know that my piece is the merch store. So my question for you is, what is your favorite piece of merch that we have?
So I really love the quote that is, I eat frogs all day every day and twice on Sundays.
Mhm.
So because it's like, it's from that, eat that frog book.
Yeah.
Is for those who are not familiar with it, is basically, it's like, who likes to eat frogs, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I must say, disclaimer, I do, in a sense, like, I haven't eaten one, because it's
Okay.
like, it's a Chinese delicacy thing. So but I view that as, yes, eat that frog is basically, is something that is yucky, that is not comfortable, that is not tasty, but
Mhm.
you do it because that will actually get you closer to your goal.
Yes.
So it's like, it is a great reminder for me that, hey, I'm the person who eats frogs. And I think, you kind of like, when you say that, it's kind of a more playful way to say that, hey, you know what, I'm ready to do more hard things, I'm ready to be in the discomfort zone.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's kind of my favorite one.
That's really good. And so if you're comfortable with sharing, what is the frog that you ate that changed your business for the better?
mm, I think it is really just be more, I guess, expose myself, like, to be,
Visibility.
to be more public, I guess.
Mhm.
To talk in front of the camera, to be on podcasts, because I have physician clients who found me just from being on someone else's podcast. I don't have my own
Mhm.
podcast, but there's so many hosts that have graciously have me, to be their guests, and they just found me, and I think that that's kind of like, sometimes I still feel not comfortable, but then that doesn't last very long. And
Yeah.
I just say that, hey, I'm here to really to serve, to share what I know, for other people to know that they're not alone, and there's really something you can do about it. So that kind of like calms me down, and that doesn't seem like a big frog anymore. And I just wanted to share quickly that Dr. Ed Wing, in our school, just actually shared like a frog eating tips, in the community, and it's a really great read. And like, because you know what, it's there. If you think about it, it's like, yeah, everyone wants to be comfortable, but
Mhm.
then when you're too comfortable, you're not growing, you're not going
Yeah,
anywhere.
that's true.
So it's like, is someone training for a marathon. If you just kind of like be comfortable, and you may just always stay at the 2 mile mark, right? And you have to really stretch yourself to go a little bit harder to be able to run further. So I think, that's why I like that Eat That Frog.
And so you can scan the QR codes that are on the screen. There's the big one, there's also the small one. Or you can go to entremd.com/merch to get your merch today. And our merch of the week is I eat frogs all day, every day, because we eat the yucky stuff first, which I'm still growing on that personally because I definitely don't like doing that. The way my mother put it was that you tackle the harder things first and then you go for the softer things. And I'm like, I'd just rather do the soft things and just procrastinate on the hard things. But doing that gets you absolutely nowhere. So don't do it.
Exactly. And I think even though just in the day, it's like you know, just do the harder things first, because
Mhm.
that's when you're the freshest, you're the
Yeah.
most refreshed, your mind is like the clearest, and so just tackle the hard things first, and then the easier things will seem easier, because you have already done, it's like that mental load is already over,
Mhm.
because you have done the hard thing.
Yes, that's really good. Okay, and then so what advice would you give to someone who's struggling with the idea of joining the business school or they have doubts about it? Or that's their frog that they have to eat, but they don't want to eat it.
Right. I'll just say, a couple questions to ask yourself. It's like, just ask what is there to gain and what is there to lose. I think joining the business school when you have a business, or if you're thinking about having a business, there's really nothing to lose, because you're gaining a community, you're gaining a lifetime of friendship, you're
Mhm.
gaining, really, like, yes, you have to spend money to be in the school, but I think the return of your investment is really much greater than just the monetary part, because you gain so much more, and really the knowledge, and also, the accountability,
Mhm.
like, I didn't even mention earlier that, we basically read a book a month. I mean, before that, I haven't read a book for years, other than, related to medicine.
Mhm.
And so personal development books, never read them before Dr. Una.
Mhm.
So it's, I think that, if you still have questions, talk to the people who are already in the school,
In
and
school, yeah.
see, if it's a good fit for you. you
Mhm.
know are you really committed to growing your business, or growing your own brand, or something. And I think that if you're really on the verge of doing, just, really take that leap.
I think, and on that, the book a month thing, I think if you're around Dr. Una, you're going to end up becoming a reader, whether or not you like it. And I think the background in itself is evidence enough of that. Like everybody inside of the house reads. I think one person came over to our house once and he was like, the book to human ratio inside of this house is not making sense. But everybody's readers and everybody reads personal development books, and they're very good for you. And then so, if you have any questions about the business school or you want to know more information, you can type EBS inside of the chat and the team will most certainly reach out to you and answer any questions that you have. And so, Dr. Mary, my last question to you is where can people find you? They want to get to know more about you, your businesses, the podcast, YouTube channels, etc.
Yeah, so my website is www.shiningwithgratitudemd.com, and my email is shiningwithgratitudemd@gmail.com. And you can find me on Facebook, Mary Leung, and LinkedIn, Mary Leung MD.
It's good. Okay, so thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I love getting to know more about your story, more about what you do. And I want you to know, like I said it in the beginning and I'll say it again, but you are definitely helping physicians, to be better. And, especially with the charting and how it can, cause a lot of
Mhm.
stress. And you're helping them with that. You're doing such a great job. Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so I will see